Hurricane Sam is still strengthening at this hour. It currently is a Cat 4 still with winds of 145 miles per hour, so not a huge increase in wind speed. So this is the latest from the NHC right here. As of 11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the center of Hurricane Sam was located near latitude 13.5 north, longitude 49.0 degrees west. Sam is moving towards the west-northwest near 8 miles per hour, and this general motion is forecast to continue through Sunday. A turn toward the northwest is expected on Monday, same as before. Maximum sustained winds have increased to 145 miles per hour with higher gusts. This is confirmed by the National Hurricane Hunters, which they're not National Hurricane Hunters; they're Hurricane Hunters. Please excuse me. Yeah, they were out. They were out there. They were getting some recon in. They put a lot of dropsons in, 34 dropsons. That's the most dropsons I've seen them put in a hurricane in a while. So, yeah, it's still a small hurricane. 30 miles or hurricane force winds, 105 miles from tropical storm force winds. Pressure is still at 943. So at this point, it's probably going to strengthen to 150 miles per hour, and then it's just going to cap off there because unless like the hurricane just starts jumping again, which I think it's nearing its max intensity at this point. So we have some hurricane aircraft reconnaissance, and there are a few drops that I found were kind of interesting. First one is drop 27. I'm going to pull that up real quick. At the surface, they had the wind southeast at 157 knots, which, if you don't know, that's about 180 miles per hour winds. So if this was if they used this in the NHC advisory, it would be a Cat 5 hurricane easily. But we're not sure really. So this is the next one I want to talk about. 162 knots. That's 186 miles per hour if you do that. So NHC went with 145. I genuinely believe that. I think these two just hit either hit a meso vortice that was in there, or B it was just a gust of this, but before it dropped it there. So yeah, or C, the dropson could be broken and it's not reading the full instrument correctly. But if you ask me, when I first saw this drop, these two drops, I was completely shocked because at the moment I was thinking, wait, this thing is if that's the case, and this thing is really intensified, like 40 miles per hour in the last 6 hours, which that is nuts intensification. But NHC went with 145. I can understand why. These were two outliers. This was drop 28 at the southeast in the eye wall right here, 132 knots, which is about 150 miles per hour or so. So I genuinely think this is stronger than 145. I think it's at 150, but I think it's close to its basically its max strength. So yeah, that's basically. I just wanted to show you guys those two drops because I found them pretty interesting, and then the NHC went with 145, which is honestly curious. The SFMRs had it at about 145 knots too, which I'm not sure what their logic is, but okay. Yeah, so we can say that this is a Cat 4 with winds of 145 miles per hour, even though hurricane hunters were out there. They found a couple of Cat 5 dropsons, which I'm not sure if they're reliable or not, but yeah, that's what the NHC is going with. So those hurricane hunters still aren't there. They left. So because I was hoping they'd make another pass there, so that way they could confirm this. But yeah, until we get another Hurricane Hunter aircraft in there, we can't really confirm anything over 150 miles per hour at this point. So yeah, I thought that was interesting. I wanted to show you guys real quick. So let's first go to the tracks and the intensity. Tracks, nothing much has changed. It's still gonna move east of the Leeward Islands, it's still going to move towards Bermuda, which Bermuda could get some impacts. I know a few of my viewers last time got a little confused because I was talking a little too fast. So so I'm going to say this right now. The Leeward Islands, they're going to get the impacts they're going to get some like swells, some high surf, some rip currents and everything. Bermuda, the potential impacts, if it gets close enough to that, they could see some what they saw with Hurricane Larry, with like tropical storm force winds, like a little bit of storm surge, a little bit of rain, and basically that. I just wanted to make that clear. So once again, Leeward Islands, they're not going to see any major impacts. The only major impact they're going to see is a huge amount of surf that's going to be pushed out, because hurricanes, even small hurricanes, even small powerful hurricanes like Sam is right here, they can push out surf hundreds of miles away from it. And that's what's going to happen to the Leeward Islands unless an Iowa replacement cycle takes place and the hurricane expands. That's all they're going to get. As for Bermuda, just to be clear, they could see some tropical storm force winds if it gets close enough to there, and this is 6 days out, so anything can change past that. Just keep that in mind. And there we go. This is the intensity, 125 knots or 145 miles per hour. Several models have it strengthening up to 150. The rest of them just either taper off or level off and just start decreasing in wind speed, which could happen. I think it's 150 because of these recon we got, at least 150 with these reconnaissance we got, and they're going with 145, which okay, they're the official agency. They can go with that. That's fine. But yeah, some of these models have it going up to 150. A couple of models have it going up to Cat 5 strength, which when I saw those dropsons, I thought this was a Cat 5 hurricane, but then I looked into it a little bit closer. I looked into them a little closer. I wasn't sure. I wanted to wait for the NHC to give their say and everything, and they're going with 145. I think it's 150 because based on some of the dropson data we've gotten. So, yeah, this is the satellite imagery of Hurricane Sam. This was a very impressive core right here. You can see that -70 ring around it the whole time. So, yeah, it's a small hurricane, but it's a very powerful hurricane. That eye is basically it's very well defined. And look how fast this thing is rotating right now. Look how fast that is. That really should tell you what the kind of strength this thing has. But the good news to that is that at the current time, it's not going to make landfall anywhere. If you're in the Leeward Islands, it's not going to be anywhere near you. You're going to see some rip currents, you're going to see some high surf, you're going to see some high waves, but you're not going to see any big impacts like huge amounts of rain or whatever. So just wanted to make that very clear. Now before we go, let's do a few key takeaways. First one, 145 mile per hour winds. It's still a small hurricane. Winds are at 30 miles from the center for hurricane force, and 105 miles from the center for tropical storm force winds. So, yeah. Pressure's leveled off to 943 millibars. That's quite interesting. I saw the hurricane hunters confirm this. They're seeing pressures of 945 and 946. So, yeah, that also counters the 157 and 162 knots, basically just as dropson arguments. So, yeah, if this was a Cat 5, the pressure would generally be a bit lower. I mean, it's not always low. A drop of it's not always 925 before it becomes a Cat 5. Sometimes the pressure drops to 935, 930. Hurricane Dorian, when it first became a Cat 5, its pressure was 927 millibars. So that tells you they can vary. But yeah, that's the first key takeaway. Second key takeaway, we could see a little bit more strengthening. I think it's 150 mile per hour hurricane, judging by the dropson data we have. This is drop 28, so yeah, 132 knots, about 150 miles per hour. Yeah, we can cross-check this as well. 134 knots. Yeah, this is at least 150 mile per hour hurricane. So yeah, this is both my opinion as well as just the drops, what the dropsons are showing in this storm. So keep that in mind. Take what I say with a grain of salt. So anyway, yeah, we could see a little bit more strengthening, and then it's going to level off, probably start uh, weakening, maybe undergo an eyewall replacement cycle if that starts, and then and then just weaken there as it moves later into the next week into less conducive environments. It's going to start weakening. Next key takeaway: no real change from the tracks. Bermuda could see some impacts now of maybe tropical storm force winds if it gets close enough, but that's about, and as well as some rain, a little bit of storm surge. It's going to be it's not going to be very much, but yeah, I just wanted to make that very clear because I know in my last video some people got confused. So next key takeaway is that hurricane hunters were in the storm. They dropped 34 dropsons. Several of these confirm this is at least a 150 mile per hour hurricane. Two of them had it up to Cat 5, but at this point, until they get another plane out there, I'm not gonna say it's stronger than that. Final key takeaway is that this thing looks really good in satellite. You can see how fast this thing is just spinning, how fast this thing is rotating. This is basically a buzzsaw right here, a really fast buzzsaw. That's essentially what this thing is. Although it comes in the form of wind, rain, and storm surge. So yeah, that's the latest on Hurricane Sam. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more updates.